Back pain does not have to be for life, and in today's video I'm going to show you a simple strategy to either eliminate or reduce your back pain so that you can finally start living your life and get into good shape. So studies suggest that around 30% of adults in the UK over the age of 25 suffer with back pain every single month, which is a crazy high number. So what I want to show you in today's video is a simple strategy to help you either eliminate or reduce that back pain so that you can get into good shape and look after your health and your fitness. But I don't just want you to follow my instructions blindly. So what I want to do first is just have a little jump into why does back pain happen. A very quick bit on me. My name's Mike Jones, and over the past 15 years I've helped well over 1,000 people improve their health and their fitness. I started off in the military being a physical training instructor, then I owned a gym for 5 years, and since then I've started a consultancy that helps employees from around the world improve their health and their fitness. And one of the things that I've learned from helping so many different people is that most people don't want to be gym freaks. They just want to be healthy, have good energy and be pain-free, and they want to achieve that in as little effort as possible so that they can enjoy their lives. And that's what I'm committed to sharing with you through these videos and on this channel: how to improve your health, how to improve your fitness, and how to do that in a way that fits into a busy life and doesn't take over your life. So most of the time, back pain is going to be caused either by muscular imbalance or issues with your discs in your back. Now, the solution to both of these things is movement, but very quickly let's just talk about what that is. So when you've got muscular imbalance because you've been sat down for a long time or living a sedentary lifestyle, not all of the muscles in the body get used, and what that can lead to is a breakdown in this chain of muscles around your back here. So your back of your legs, your butt cheeks and your lower back. Now all of these are supposed to work together, and what can happen is when they're imbalanced, we end up with strain on muscles around the back and certain muscles in the bum, and what that leads to is pain. It's all to do with muscular imbalance. And when muscles are imbalanced, some muscles are tight, some muscles are long and stretched, then they become weak, and then it's very easy to either sprain them or just generally live in pain. The second reason tends to be disc issues, and that's again where these little discs that you get in your spinal column are either being pressed on because your spine's not sat in the right position, or they're degenerating, or they're bulging out slightly. And again, movement is the solution to both of those things. So when I move my body regularly, the way it's meant to be moved through its full range of motion, that's going to create muscular balance, which is going to relieve pressure on my back. When I move my body regularly, the way it's meant to be moved, that's going to increase blood flow to my spine, which is going to again reduce that chance of disc pain or the pain that comes from the discs, and also increase the likelihood of my back setting itself into the right position. Now there are some occasions where you might have a condition that's not going to get better with movement. That's actually quite rare, and that's why I'd always recommend that if you have got back pain, obviously go to your doctor first and have a chat with them about it. But what I'd say is just the feedback you get from a doctor. If you're not happy with what you hear, try and get a second opinion, because doctors in the UK especially, and countries like America, are very concerned about getting sued or being in the wrong. So often what they'll do is just play the safe card and say, oh, if your back hurts, just rest and take drugs. Now that's the safer option for the doctor because they're less likely to get sued, but what it means for you, if you haven't actually got an issue that can't be fixed, what it means for you is you're going to go on a vicious downward spiral where you don't move because you're scared, then your back doesn't get any better, and then you just don't, and then it just goes into a downward spiral. So most of the time the answer is movement, but obviously go and check with your doctor. But if you don't like what you hear, do go and get a couple of extra opinions. So what we're going to do now is look into how can we do that? What kind of movements do we actually need to do to relieve that pressure from the back and to make the back feel better? So what I'm going to take you through is something called the RSSM method, and it stands for release, stretch, strengthen, and move. And this should take you about 10 minutes. You should get instant relief when you do this. Just from doing different parts of it, you should feel instantly better with some of those back pains that you might have. If you keep doing this like 3 to 4 times a week for about 30 days, you're going to feel completely different at the end of that 30-day period. And if you keep doing this for 3 months, your posture and that back pain is going to be transformed. So stick with this. It's a proven process, and it's going to make you feel a lot better. Just a quick mindset piece. You're going to go through the rusty car phase, and that is, imagine that you've had a car sat in a garage for years. It's got rusty, all the brakes are all horrible and whatever. When you start driving it, it's going to sound terrible, and that's what's going to happen with your body when you start doing this stuff. It's probably going to hurt, right? But if you stick at it and you brush off those cobwebs, you're going to get to a stage where you're pain-free. For this method, you're going to need some basic equipment. So what we've got is a couple of balls. So you can get these off Amazon. You don't have to spend a lot of money or go to a specialist shop. So you can just search hockey ball or dog ball. This is one of my favorites because it's hard. This one's slightly bigger. So you can look for a massage ball, and this can be useful, but you don't have to get this. You can do it with just this. This is my favorite one. We get a foam roller. You can pick one of these up for about a tenner. This is good for opening the back up, as we're going to talk about in a moment. And then it's useful as well to have some form of weight, but that's not essential, and you'll see why we're going to use this in that strengthening piece shortly. So when people have got bad backs, the standard kind of response is to stretch, right? So my back's hurting, so I need to stretch it. Now, we are going to stretch today, and we're going to talk about why that's important, but there's a problem with just stretching, and that is that it doesn't address the full issue, and that's why this process of RSSM will transform the way that your body responds to what you're doing for it. Again, what a lot of people do is go to a chiro or a physio, and you get temporary pain relief from that because they do what we're going to do now, the release method. But if that's not followed up by the strengthening piece, which we're going to talk about at the end of this method, it's a short-term solution. But when we do this RSSM method, it's a full loop, and it will actually lead to us addressing the whole issue. So the first thing we've got to do is we've got to release, okay? So from years of sitting down and not being active, certain muscles are overworked and certain muscles are neglected, and that's a problem. The muscles that are overworked or tight, if they don't get blood flow to them, they're going to stay tight no matter how much we stretch. So that's what a massage person will do, a masseuse or a physio or a chiro. Often they'll like move certain parts of you to get blood flow into the tight bits. Now, I'm not going to try and do a breakdown into which muscles get tight and why, because we'll be here all day, but one of the really common muscles that gets tight is a muscle deep in your arse cheek called your piriformis. And what happens with that muscle is it touches your sciatic nerve, and then that leads to sciatica. So if you've got pain shooting down your leg and up your back, you've probably got a tight piriformis. And the way that we get in that is we use a ball, either a hockey ball or a ball like this. We put it into the side, the fleshy bit of our bum cheek, and we move around until we find the bit where it really bloody hurts. And when we just put light pressure on that, it releases that muscle quite quickly. And for many people that have really suffered with sciatica, you can get instant pain relief just from doing this. So I'm going to put it into the side bit of my butt cheek here. And I'm going to move on to my side. So you see I'm not just sitting straight down, I'm getting onto the side. And I'm moving around and just playing around all in that fleshy bit until I find the bits where are tight. If you find a bit, by the way, that isn't the piriformis, and it still feels tight, and it feels like it's hurting to press, then that's beneficial to press on it because it's a tight muscle. So I'm on my piriformis now. I can feel it, and what's happening with me is I'm getting a little bit of a pulsating feeling, and that's that blood going to a muscle that hasn't been used for a while. If I want to make this more intense, I can lift this leg up to get more pressure in. That really hurts. Or I can try putting this foot on here and seeing how that feels. I can also get into my lower back by just getting that ball a little bit more around there. But you've just got to play around. But what we're really trying to do is, when you get in here, that will hurt as well, but that's not your piriformis. That's just loosening the top part of your glutes. It's this bit here that we want to get into. If you don't feel it on the hockey ball, you can try the bigger ball, and that can push a little bit deeper in because of the surface area. And again, you can just play around with your foot and where it is. But there's no like perfect method for this stuff. You've just got to find it. When you do find it, you want to hold it for between 30 seconds and a minute. Unless it's agonizing, then you do it for a little bit of a shorter period of time. So that's going to release that piriformis. And like I said, that will give us almost instant pain relief if it's touching that sciatic nerve. So that's the first part of the release method. As I'll mention again at the end of this video, what you can do is you can either do all three of these. I'm going to show you three in each method: release, stretch, strengthen, move. I'm going to show you three different things in each category. You can choose one and alternate it throughout the weeks, or if you're feeling a bit more committed, you can do all three in one sitting. The next piece that we want to do then is we want to release that upper spine. Now, even though we might have pain in our lower backs, it's still beneficial to open up this upper spine, because guys especially, but it's not just limited to guys, we tend to get this kyphotic posture arise, which is where we sit forwards and the spine like kind of gets locked in that front position that you can see there. So we need to teach that to reopen, because when that's in that position, believe it or not, it does actually place excessive strain on the lower back as well. So the spine's supposed to sit in a nice S curve, whereas if this top part of the S is over the top, it puts unnecessary pressure down here as well, and all these muscles are linked. So we want to try and open up the whole spine, and if you've got upper back pain, this will help as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the foam roller into my thoracic spine, which means the spine that's kind of around my shoulder blade area. So my lumbar's down here. Still get a nice feeling from this because it's pressing onto the muscles around there, but I really want to work at the top here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a couple of rolls just to get everything moving, and you might get a few cracks from that. And then what I want to do is I want to put my hips down. If you're really tight, you're going to struggle to do that. Put my hips down. I'm going to try and extend backwards over the foam roller. So I'm trying to force my spine to bend back the other way. If you get cracks, that's good. That's your spine opening up. You can make it more intense by taking the arms into it as well. And then once I've done that, notice I'm not lifting my hips up. Because if I lift my hips up, which is what a lot of people do, I'm not actually doing anything to my spine. I'm just moving around. So I need to keep my hips down and try and extend back. So you can play by folding the arms over, arms at the side. You can play around and just see what feels right for you. And then you're going to work down, so or up, so you go to the next vertebrae, play around. You can try and throw some twists in there, and then all the way around to the base of the neck. And then you can try and come up. And so, again, what I want you to think about when you're doing this stuff is you don't have to do the perfect technique. You just play around and see what feels nice, see what's making that back crack, see what's making you feel like you're opening up. If you have got a really tight upper back, you're going to feel like your lungs are opening, you can breathe better, and you're getting kind of stress and tension relief all around your neck just through doing that. And then the third thing that we're going to look at releasing is our hip flexor muscles. So you've got these muscles that go from like the top of your leg into and from your pelvis into the base of your spine. I'll put a picture on the screen that will show you that. And what happens is because we sit in this position a lot, they get tight, and when they're tight, they can, because what the movement they're enabling is this. So if they get tight, what they actually do is they tend to try and set in this position here. So they're like now they're anchoring onto my spine. So when I try to come into an upright position, they're actually trying to fight that and hold me there. And obviously over time that leads to back pain. So we might want to release this psoas muscle as well. It's called the psoas. So to do that, we're going to get a ball again, and we're going to roll around our pelvic region in the front of the hip. So I'm going to come down like so, get into it, and see if I've got any particular areas of tightness, but I want to work towards my pelvis. And I can also try and like come up like so and see if I've got any particular tightness in there. So I've got a nice owie spot there. So with this, you want to spend about a minute on each side. If you feel a good burn or a good kind of pain response, then do this. If you feel like you're not getting anything out of it, then just do the other two. Okay, so we've released some of the common tight muscles around the hips and lower back. What we want to do now is stretch the tight muscles. So again, imagine that your muscles are elastic bands, okay, and there's multiple elastic bands. Let's use the shoulder because it's more visual. And I've got some at the front and some at the back, just to keep things simple. If I've been sat like this for years, the ones at the front have gone really tight, and the ones at the back have gone long, but like a frayed elastic band, they go weak as well, which is why we're susceptible to sprains and things like that. So what I've just done there with my hip is I've released these ones in the front, the tight ones. I've released them by putting pressure in, right? So they've started to ease off a little bit. Now what I've got to do is actually stretch them as well. So we want to stretch the commonly tight muscles. So with the lower back, one of the tight muscles is the lower back and the hamstrings. Just a quick little bit of A&P, anatomy and physiology. Your posterior chain is the back of your body, and commonly in modern life, the front is overworked and the back is weak. And the three big kind of powerful drivers of the posterior chain are the hamstrings, the butt cheeks, and then all these muscles around the lower back. Now what happens for a lot of us is because we spend a lot of time sat on our asses, these ones, which should be the most powerful, don't work very well. So this and this, hamstrings and lower back, the work gets unfairly distributed through them, and these don't do enough work. And that's what leads to back pain and tight hamstrings. So what we have to do is stretch these pieces, and then when we go into the strengthening piece, we want to strengthen this. And then over time what we're doing is we're taking, like, let's imagine you've got 100% work, 50% is going through here, 50% is going through here. By loosening this off and strengthening this, we're changing it so that, you know, a good 30 plus percent is actually going through here, probably more. So we want to stretch. So there's a couple of things we can do. First, what we want to do is stretch that lower back because it's common. And one way we can do that is by sitting, legs out in front of us, and we try and lean forward and touch our toes. If you can't touch your toes, that's a really good sign that you've got a tight lower back and or hamstrings. You'll know which area is tight because you're going to feel the stretch more. So I'm feeling that more in my hamstrings than my lower back. If I want to try and hit it differently, I can stand up and I can forward fold. And I'm feeling that now a little bit more in my lower back than I was before, but I'm still feeling it mainly in my hamstrings. And I can grab onto the back here and down. A good kind of like idea of what's acceptable is that if you can't touch your toes, you're off. It's probably your hamstrings or your back. And doing this over time is going to help you do that. If you know you get loads of tightness in your hamstrings, that release method I just showed you, we can get the foam roller and roll the hamstrings like we did everything else to get the same kind of response. I can try and come down. If I can't touch my toes, that's not really very good. Ideally, I can touch my toes. See, I'm all right here. I'm not super flexible, but I'm enough to be pain-free. And then really good is when you can start to be able to put your hands underneath there, and then you'll see gymnasts who are super flexible can get their chest down to their thighs, no problem. So that's the first stretch we want to do, forward fold. Okay, the second stretch we're going to do is a seated adductor stretch. So you've got these muscles on the inside of your leg called your adductors, and it's really common that we get tight on these, and that affects us as well because it affects our ability to use our hips properly. So what we do for this is we find ourselves a bit of a wall, and this actually serves as a kind of a double stretch, really. So first of all, what I want to do is make sure that as I'm sitting by this wall, my tailbone is touching the wall, right? So right now you can see it's not. It's away from the wall. So when I try and do any stretch, it's not actually forcing me to get into that right position. So what I'm going to do is hinge my hips back and then try and sit up nice and straight. And I'm a little bit tight here, so my tailbone is trying to move away from the wall. So I've got to really concentrate to try and keep it in contact with the wall. Okay, so that's the first thing. And what I should feel is tailbone's in contact, lumbar's not, upper back is. So that's the first thing I want to do. Now the next thing I want to do is bring my feet together and push down on my knees. Now ideally, and I'm tight at my groins, ideally this is my area of tightness, but ideally you'd be able to pull your hips, your feet in towards your pelvis and be able to get your knees down to the floor, which I can't, but this is way better than what I used to be. Lots of you trying this, you're going to be stuck like this. And that's a sign that you're super tight in your groins, just something that's going to improve over time. But if we are tight in here, that's having a negative correlation to back because it's limiting how we use our hips properly, which limits how we can use the muscles throughout the hips properly. So I'm going to sit in this position. I want to try and pull these back as far as they can come, and then I'm going to sit and press down on my knees like so. And again, I want to hold this for a minute, so where it feels like a stretch. So I'm going to push down here, find where I get the stretch. I'm going to hold for a minute. As I say on the other stretching videos that I've got, is that press down for a minute, and when you're about 30 seconds in, try and increase that stretch slightly, because the nervous system tends to kind of ease off a little bit. So you get a deeper stretch by pressing for a good 30 seconds and then trying to increase the stretch after a while. There's other stretching methods as well that you can go down a whole rabbit hole on about bouncing and all this stuff, but it's all about consistency. If you're just doing this a few times a week, you're going to notice you go from here to here to here to here. I'm trying to fight this temptation for my hips to come away from the wall now. So I'm trying to keep my hips in contact, keep those feet back and push down. So I'm not just pushing on the knees, I'm actually being nice and active in my core and my upper back as well. And for those of you who are tight in here, you're going to know about that. By the way, if it needs to drop to the floor, no problem. You probably don't need this stretch, you're flexible. But a lot of people are going to be really tight in here. So that's stretch number 2. And then stretch number 3, we're just going to get a bit of twisting motion through the spine because we can get a bit rigid. So we want to get good at twisting as well, just to kind of loosen everything off in that back. So one of the best ones is called threading the needle. So we come into all fours, like so. And what I'm going to do is take one arm, push down to the floor, so that shoulder touches the floor. If you can't get down here, that's fine. Just come down as far as you can. And then what I want to do is open up. So you want to try and reach through here. And I'm going to open up. And now what I'm trying to do is twist out and look up and get as much twist as I can. You can see I'm actually quite tight here, but some of you won't be able to get past there. But I really want to try and twist up and come down. What I want to do on this stretch is about 5 reps on each side, but I'm trying not to rush it. So when I get to the top here, I'm really trying to just hold it for a second and then twist. Other side, down, come up, twist through, and hold for a good few seconds up here. Try and fight that temptation to bend your arm, because that's limiting the stretch. So this arm should be locked out, and this arm's coming through, and you get a nice stretch, like so. So we're going to do 5 reps of that on each side. Okay, so we've done the first 2 parts of the RSSM method. So we've done release, we've done stretch, now we need to do strengthen. So I'm going to return to the shoulder, even though we're doing the hips, to help you or remind you of how this method works. So the first thing we did, so we remember that the joints get tight. So with our lower back, it tends to be around the hips, right? But with the shoulder gets tight. And what happens is muscles in the front of the shoulder are short and tight, muscles at the back and long or weak, shoulder sits in the wrong position, pain all around here. So to fix that, we can't just stretch because that doesn't address the whole issue. So the first thing we do is release the tight muscles in the front of the shoulder, right? And that starts to take the pressure off. Then we stretch them so they can sit back into their natural position. Now we've got a problem though, because if we don't do anything else, and this is often where you're at when you come out of your physio, your chiropractor session, they've released it, they've pulled it back, you feel good, this pain's off. 3 weeks in, you need to go back to them because you didn't do the strengthening phase. So I've released it, I've stretched it, but this muscle here is still weak, and I'm still living a lifestyle while I'm sat forwards. And again, this all passes down to the lower back as well, right? I'm still sat down on my chair all day, every day in this rounded position. So if I don't now strengthen this stuff, that's just going to go back to where it was. So to really reinforce this and make an actual long-term change happen, I've now got to strengthen this, and then I'm really going to reset my posture. Same down here. So we've released the front areas and the tight areas around the hips, which give us back pain. We've stretched the muscles that put our back into the wrong position. Now we need to strengthen the muscles that are going to hold the back and the core in the right position. So the first thing we're going to do is a glute bridge, right? I talk about glute bridges a lot. I never get bored of them because what they do is strengthen your glutes. And really, most of the issues that we have with our bodies would disappear if we all just got stronger in our glutes, right? But obviously we live a lifestyle where we sit on our asses all day, every day. So we need to do really kind of glute targeted exercises to help us strengthen this stuff. Good thing about the human body is, even though you sit on your ass for 8 hours a day, just doing 10 to 30 reps offsets that, but obviously more than once. So the glute bridge is where I lie on my back, and what I'm doing here is I'm extending my hip and I'm squeezing my bum muscles at the top. Now the reason that this is so good is because it's reducing the likelihood of me using other muscles to get into this position. A lot of us are going to be still trying to do this more with our quads than with our butt cheeks, right? And you're going to know that because you're going to feel more of a strain here. The way that you battle that is you play around with your foot position, should be about 45 degrees here, but you lift your toes up. This is the thing that seems to make the biggest difference. So I lift my toes up when I'm on my heels, and then what I'm going to do is squeeze my hips and lift my tailbone before I've done anything else. And that kind of forces me to engage my core. And then I come up, and I know you look stupid, but I want you to put your hands on your bum cheeks and just feel them working at the top. So toes off the floor, lifting my tailbone off the floor, drive my hips through. Can I feel my bum cheeks working? Good squeeze at the top, come down. I'm going to do 10 reps of that. If I find that easy, which most of you won't, by the way, if you really take your time and pause. I mean, I train a lot, and that's burning my glutes. If you find that really easy, you can make it more challenging by trying one leg at a time. So you can lift one leg up, and you'll see that I struggle with this. And then I'm going to do 10 reps on each leg, okay? But we want to try and feel that in the glutes. If you're feeling it in your quads or your hamstrings, you've got to slow it down, make it easier, focus more on your glutes. That's the first one. We're going to do about 10 reps of that. If you want to make it more challenging, you can do 3 sets of 10 reps. Just work around with your time. It's consistency that matters, not intensity in one session. The next movement that we're going to do is a pelvis hip set, okay? So this is essentially what we do at the top of a deadlift, right, or a squat. So when I get to the top, I want to squeeze my glutes, squeeze my quads, and be locked out in this nice kind of straight position here. Now, what happens with a lot of us, and I used to suffer with this really bad, glutes are weak, and we sit like this, okay? So or we stand like this. So we finish our reps, and we're in this position here where my kind of tailbone's back. I've got this over-exaggerated S at the top there. There's pressure on my lower back. So what I want to practice, and you don't need any weight for this at the start, is just doing these reps where I stand up and I tense my bum and I feel my core working as well, and I feel myself coming into alignment. So I'm going to tense, relax. Tense, you look absolutely ridiculous, as I always do here, so don't do it in the shop, but do it at home or in your office. Relax, okay? And if you want to make that a little bit more challenging, you can hold onto a weight, and you can just turn it into like a kind of mini rep. So you can just send your hips back, come through, lock out, and feel the difference between this position that I'm in now, and this. A lot of us, we get to the top of these reps and we finish here. My bum is literally doing nothing right now. So I've got to feel the difference between this, and my butt cheeks are squeezed really hard. You want to be able to crack a nut in those bad boys. And then after, so you're going to do 10 reps of that as well, and they're controlled tempo reps. So 10, squeeze, and I'm feeling the work between my glutes and my core. All right, you're going to feel stupid doing that. I promise you, if you do that a couple of times a week over a period of 30 days to 3 months, your body will learn to stabilize yourself in this position. It will make a massive difference to your posture, lower back, and how you feel. And then the third exercise then, which is a bit of a kind of continuation of what we just did there, is a squat. Again, I talk about squats all the time, but teaching yourself to squat properly is one of the most positively impactful and efficient movements you can do to improve your posture. So you don't have to get a little bit of weight, but you can use a kettlebell. And what you do is you focus on, at the bottom of your rep look, having a stable spine. Now, a lot of us are going to get what we call a butt wing, okay? So if you look at my thoracic part, my lumbar part of my spine, this bit here, if you just come a bit closer, Lise. If you look at my part of my spine here, it's now staying in the right position, okay? So I'm still it's almost in the same position that it would be here. A butt wing, because when I get to the bottom, right, and then I round off. So you can see now that my lumbar is in this position, not in this position. So that's rounded off, that's a butt wing. That's active, not a butt wing, okay? So we want to practice this with a dumbbell, because that tends to help us keep the core active, a dumbbell or a kettlebell. But I want to do, again, 10 reps, and I'm focusing on sending my hips back and my knees forwards, keeping nice and active at the bottom, coming back up, squeezing my glutes at the top. If you've got a tight lower back, you get a nice stretch at the bottom. Now, if that's really hard and you're all over the shop, you can take that back, and instead of doing your 10 reps on there, you can do a minute of practice on an upright. So obviously I'm in a gym here. I've got this nice solid upright on the rack, on the rig. but you'll have like a banister or a staircase or something at home. You're going to hold on to it, and you're going to come down. It's really good to video each other. Practice this with your partner. Come down, holding on to something, and see, am I rounding off at the bottom? Not good, right? That's not what I want, okay? So I want to be active at the bottom. So what I want to practice is holding on and coming into this position here. Now I'm in this position, my glutes, especially here on the side of my glutes, are really working hard, and my upper back's working hard to keep me in that position. I can also practice holding onto the upright higher up, and that's going to, again, force me into squatting properly, and I can just hold this for a minute at the bottom. See the difference? So this is good, strengthening good positions. This is not good. And I can feel the difference there, because right now I'm relaxed and all the pressure's going from my lower back. Right now my butt cheeks are having to work really hard to hold me in that position, but my back's getting a lot of relief. So that last movement, sorry, I've made it a bit of a long-winded explanation. You can either do 10 reps with your weight, or if you're like all over the shop, find your upright, do a minute's practice on the bottom there. You're going to get the same response from both. Okay, so we've released the tight muscles, we've stretched the tight muscles, and we've started to strengthen the weak muscles. So we've started to get this back into the right position and strengthen the stuff that's going to hold it there. What I want you to finish on is learning the movements that are teaching you to use all of that the way nature intended. Now, when you initially start doing this, you're trying to get away from back pain, right? So you're going to learn the movements to help you reinforce everything you've done here. But as you start to move away from being out of back pain, I want you to take these movements and start adding weight to them and making them more challenging and adding them into your strength and your fitness routine. So this is really important because it helps you move as nature intended, and it's going to help you not just move away from pain, but have something to continue into as that back pain starts to go. Now, the two movements that I believe are going to be the most beneficial for helping you stay pain-free in your back are deadlifts and kettlebell swings, which is almost counterintuitive to what you probably think. A lot of people say, oh, you shouldn't do those things if you've got a bad back. I completely disagree. I think the deadlift and the kettlebell swing are all about hinging at the hip. They're all about stabilizing your core. They're all about building good muscular balance for the areas of your back that get tight. So I'm not saying that you should be doing huge weights on this or breaking world records or doing 1-rep maxes, but I'm saying that you should be teaching yourself and strengthening yourself to do these movements. So what we're going to do now is just look at them from a technique perspective, right? And the way that we teach ourselves to deadlift with good form, so doing the movement piece, is with a pole again. So we grab a pole or a broomstick, and what we're going to do is take it with our weaker hand and hold it like so. So little fingers up in the air, thumbs below. I'm going to bring it round to my back. Okay, and now I'm using that hand to hold it in the back of my head. Okay, now what I'm going to do is take my other hand and just press on the pole like so. If you've got really tight shoulders or you've got a bit of thoracic upper back tightness, that kyphosis, you're going to struggle. So just don't worry about getting your head on the back and just hold the pole like this. Okay, but ideally you can get into this position. I've got 3 points of contact. Okay, back of my head, shoulder blades, and my tailbone. That's where the pole's touching. Again, if you've got that really tight upper back, don't worry about the back of the head. Just work on the shoulder blade, the shoulder blades and the tailbone. Right? Then what I'm going to work on is hinging forwards without losing any of those 3 points of contact. Right? So I bend my knees slightly and I send my hips back. I don't want my knees to go over my toes. I want them to stay where they are. So notice here, I'm not sending my knees forwards. They break and then I send my hips back. Okay, and I want to be able to get to parallel. And this is a good deadlift position. Right? So I've got kind of like vertical shins, and that pole is in contact with all 3 points of me. You're probably going to find that this stretches your hamstrings. That's a good thing. Don't worry about it. It's getting you into a good position. What a lot of us are going to find is that as we come down, this happens with the pole. I lose the tailbone contact. Can you guess why I'm losing the tailbone contact there? Because I'm moving through my spine, not my hips. And the reason I'm moving through my spine, not my hips, is because my body's forgot how to use my hips properly. My glute muscles aren't working very well. So this is forcing me to learn how to move my body as nature intended, using my big muscles, okay, as opposed to putting everything through my spine because this stuff's really weak. I'm not saying that bending your spine is bad, but when you're bending your spine because you don't know how to use your hips, that is bad. And if you think about it, when I'm picking the kids up or picking my luggage up or picking something heavy up, if I'm doing it this way, then everything's loaded nicely through my core and using my big muscles, which, by the way, when I get to use these better, also helps me lose weight because they shoot my metabolism up. But if I'm not lifting properly, I'm putting everything through my spine, through my back. These things are weak. It's a lose-lose situation. So it's going to feel a bit awkward, but that's what I want to work on. And then as my back pain starts to reduce and I start to get comfortable with this is going to turn into, let's carry on, let's keep that going. That's going to turn into a deadlift, right? Where I'm starting to put weight on a bar, building my confidence, and practicing this movement with weight on. The second movement that I want you to play around with, and again, when you do this movement part, you can alternate between the two. The second movement is a kettlebell swing. Now, a kettlebell swing is probably one of the most misunderstood movements in fitness because we see the video and what we see is different to actually what happens. So what people think a kettlebell swing is a shoulder movement. So they think you're lifting the kettlebell up with your shoulders like so, right? That's not what a kettlebell swing is meant to be. So a kettlebell swing is meant to be a hip movement, an explosive hip movement. And again, I'm going to reiterate this point, but as we get stronger in these glutes, everything else has a positive correlation to that because the stronger you are in here, the less back pain you get, the more explosive you are, the easier it is for you to lose weight, the easier it is for you to produce human growth hormone, which helps you build muscle, burn fat. So I could literally do a whole video on how beneficial it is to strengthen your hips. But a kettlebell swing is a really good way to do that, okay? So when I'm doing a kettlebell swing, it's all about, and I want you to start light, obviously, but it's all about setting my core, sending my hips back. So notice that my knees aren't really going forwards, but my hips are going back, and then tensing or contracting my glutes and my hips to create momentum through that kettlebell. So this is really good. As I get to the top here, you'll see my hips snap, my glutes lock out, and my core is nice and straight, okay? That's good. What's not good is when I'm swinging it, my back's all over the shop. See there, my glutes are doing nothing. It's actually hurting my lower back, and everything's going through my shoulders. Okay, so this is bad, this is good. Okay, and what I want you to practice when you start in this is just getting to where I'm going now. And as you start to feel confident with that and you feel this contraction here, then you're gonna start going slightly higher until you get to this position. And then what we do is we go up to a heavier weight. But what I want you to do is work on technique, practice with a light kettlebell. So I'd say ladies start with like an 8, gents start with like a 10 or a 12. Work up to a point where you can do 10 reps, no problem to here. And then squeeze, feel the difference between this and this. This is good, this is bad. And once you can get to here, no problem with 10, then we're gonna go up a weight. And again, that's a continuation. And again, in no time, you should be able to at least deadlift your body weight, eventually get into twice body weight, and you should be able to get close to, regardless of your age, shape, or fitness level, you should be able to get to up to a 16 ladies on the kettlebell swing, up to 24 guys on the kettlebell swing too. So that is the full RSSM method. It's a bit of a tongue twister, that. So we release, we stretch, we strengthen, and then we teach our joint to move as nature intended. Remember, this is just a phase. This is just a phase to help you build your confidence up around your lower back, reduce, and ideally eliminate that pain that you've got on your lower back. Once you've got through that rusty car phase where things are hurting a little bit, then we want to keep that continuation going. We want to continue with that training, and we want to go from just doing this as a full method to doing this as a bit of a warm-up, which sets us up for our deadlifts, our squats, our weight training, our running, whatever it might be. Even if you are into running, you're not necessarily into weightlifting, you should be doing this stuff to make sure that you've got muscular balance so that you're not getting the injuries. Remember what I said, 9 times out of 10 back pain is fixable, and it's just about implementing these movements. If you have implemented this and you've started to build your confidence with this, or you already feel like you want to go a little bit past just doing this RSSM method, I have to really concentrate to say it, what I'd suggest that you do is you move on to my other training method. So I've got the 30-minute all-round fitness method, and I've got the 30 days to better strength and posture method. Those are a little bit more in-depth, and they give you a little bit of a higher level, harder level of training, and both of them are available for free on YouTube. So what I'll do is I'll put links to both of those videos now. Enjoy.